Hi, this is Ron Kivett. Thanks for coming to my website. It is a work in progress and probably always will be. Hopefully we're going to take a new look at the way UFOs are talked about. We're going to make comments on some of the things that are going on now and comments on some of the things that have happened in the past. I want you to know right from the start that when I say UFOs, I'm not talking about merely lights in the midnight sky. I'm talking about intelligently controlled craft from off the earth or somewhere else. We want to start a dialogue. We want people who have had the experience and would like to talk about it, come and join the website. I wanted you to know a little bit about me. So here's my story we recorded some time back. I hope you enjoy it. And as I said, come in, be a part of the website, and let's start a dialogue. It was a cold winter night in 1957. We were driving along Route 44 out of Martinsville, Indiana. We were headed home 5 miles out of town into the country. We had just come up onto a 2-mile straight stretch of road when what at first appeared to be an extremely bright star immediately became a huge glowing object not more than 100 yards away from our car. The car's motor died, the lights went out. We coasted off the edge of the road. With no other cars around and no houses nearby, we were literally trapped in our own car. And we had no doubt that the thing was watching us. Now this report isn't too different from hundreds of other UFO reports we've received. The thing that makes it different for me is that I was one of the people in that car. I was 14 years old at the time. When it started out, my sister had been at a basketball game in Martinsville, and my mom and I had gone to pick her up. And on the way back, on the drive back, I noticed a very bright star, bright red star. And my sister and I began to argue whether we were looking at Mars or not. And I said it was Mars because it was red, and she says that it wasn't Mars because stars don't twinkle, and this thing was twinkling. So we were haggling back and forth about this. And as I said, we come around this curve and come up onto the straightaway. And just as we came up onto the straightaway, we had a completely open view of the sky. And this thing, which at one point was off in this direction as the star, immediately became a huge glowing object to this side of the car. It was hovering over a cornfield, and as it changed position from point A to point B, that's when the motor died on the car, the lights went out, the radio went off. Mom pulled the car over the side of the road so that if anybody did come along, they wouldn't hit us in the back end. Strangely enough, nobody did come along. As I said, we were completely trapped in the car. We rolled the windows down to see if we could hear anything. And this thing would sit out there and it would be totally silent. Now, to me, when it was close to us, and it was less than 100 yards away because years later I went back and measured the field, and actually it was probably more like 60 yards away from us. To me, it looked like a neon football. It was that kind of a shape. It had a bluish-white glow to it, and it kind of bobbled just a little bit. It didn't hang there straight in the air. It would just kind of bobble a little bit. And when it would go from one point to the other, there was no movement involved. It was either here or it was back out there at the star position. When we were looking at it here, you could look over and you couldn't see the star. And when it left here, it wasn't here, but the star was there. So it would travel from one point to the other instantaneously. And later I was doing an interview with a fellow who had seen a large UFO, and he said it was like you turned out a light. You pull a switch and the light goes out. You pull the switch again and the light's back on. It doesn't go anywhere. It is either there or it's not. And that's the way this thing moved. And it went from the cornfield to the star 3 different times. And the last time that it came back over the cornfield, it shone this brilliantly white spotlight, which came down, and it would sweep back and forth across the rows of corn, and it would light them up just like the searchlights that you see sometimes, when the opening of a car dealership or at a circus. Brilliant white light. And one of the things that happens to you when you see something like this is your mind starts clicking real fast, Is it this? Is it that? Is it this? Is it an airplane? No, it's not an airplane because it's not moving. It's hovering. Is it a blimp? No, it's not a blimp because blimps can't possibly move that fast. Is it a helicopter? No, it's not a helicopter. Helicopters make too much noise. And all of the things that made this a flying saucer were there that night. It made no noise. It hovered. It went from one position to the other position instantly. And when it was close to the car and it moved, it disappeared. It didn't go from one point to the other. It just disappeared. Now, the 4th time it left, after showing the light, and I don't believe that the light ever crossed the road and hit the car. It may have. If it did, I'm not aware of it. Someday I'm going to go through some regressive hypnosis and see if it actually did hit the car. But when it left the last time, lights came back on, the radio came back on, Mom turned the engine, the car fired right up, and we drove home. We got to my aunt's house, and it was kind of down on the hill, and then it opened up to a pasture, and we knew if we got down there we could see the thing again. And we roar down the road, and Mom slams on the brakes, and I opened the door to the car to jump out, and I literally fell out of the car. I had pumped so much adrenaline, I couldn't even move properly. That's how frightened I was. It wasn't like I was terrified. It was just like this awe-struck feeling. We actually saw one. It was actually there. And I think that when you have a situation like that occur, when it actually happens to you, it's a life-altering experience. It changes you forever. And I know that there are hundreds of people out there, probably thousands of people out there, who have had a similar incident. And it changes you. It changes you because all of a sudden you're on the inside looking out, so to speak. You've been there. You have seen one. You know they exist. And your mind has gone through all of those things. It's not this, it's not this, it's not this. It's something else. And you're left with 2 alternatives. Either one, it's a flying saucer. It's a spacecraft from off the Earth or out of our dimension. But it's there and it's real. Or you're crazy. And neither one of those is an acceptable situation. So you're kind of left with this hole in your reality. You know you're not crazy. In my case, there were 2 other people there. My mother saw it, my sister saw it. That's what got me into really researching and studying this. And for years I've been looking for answers, and I've always felt like we were on the brink of that answer, and I've always felt like we were moving forward to some kind of a conclusion on this. And I've been doing this for 50 years now, and it seems like we have more questions than we have answers. Now, I've created this blog for that purpose. I've created it for those people who have had an experience, who have seen something. And we're not just talking about lights in the midnight sky that could be anything. We're talking about people who have seen something that they know in their heart of hearts is a flying saucer, is a spacecraft from somewhere else. And I invite you, if you've had an experience like that, or even an experience close to that, give me some information. Go to the website. Show me what you've got. If you've got pictures, I'd be glad to see them. If you've got a story to tell, I'd be glad to listen to it. And if you'd like, I'll be glad to put the story on the website so other people can understand, yeah, I'm not the only one that saw one of these things. I'm not the only one this happened to. And I'm not crazy. Because you're not crazy. So, go to the website, put your information in, and let's start a dialogue. I'm Ron Kivett, and thanks for being here.